children have very active imaginations, and these wild thoughts can help them understand the wild world we live in. For example, kids might claim that they're a princess from a far-off land, or they might tell their teacher that they're going to Disney World tomorrow, even though they're not going to Disney World at all. Parents might listen to their kids tell these crazy stories, but some might ignore them or instruct them not to lie to their teacher about going to Disney World. But what would you say to your 2-year-old child if instead of saying that they were a Disney princess or a superhero, they instead claimed that they are an American pilot who was killed by the Japanese when his plane was shot down? When your child gives you specifics about an American aircraft carrier, the first and last name of a friend who was on the ship with him, and a location of the crash of the so-called death. This was something the parents of James Leininger had to reply to. Was this a strangely complex and imaginative story, or was their child James recalling a past life? Now, James Leininger's parents aren't the only parents who have had to deal with this question, and James Leininger isn't the only child who has dealt with memories, phobias, and nightmares of a supposed past life. But are these just made-up, imaginative, wild stories that parents are exaggerating just a little bit, or is reincarnation real? This is Cauldron Convos, baby. Ooh, no smoke machine, but you know, we got the goods, we got the green wall, and we also have a surprise because we hit 7,000 subscribers. Good thing I'm not a freestyle singer, because that freaking sucked. Anyway, 7,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for giving us 7,000, and because we wanted to thank you for just being here on this channel, we wanted to do a little face reveal of our producer Xenu, the god of the Scientology church. We're so happy that you're here.
This is for the fans.
I know, there's just that one guy that's like, who is that guy speaking in the background? Either cut him off or show his face. This is for you. In this video, we will be talking about what is this phenomenon of children who apparently recall past lives, real studies showing the truth about these children and past lives, case examples of children who have actually claimed that they have, recalled a past life, any evidence that they have to prove their point. What are these parents thinking? What are they saying? How do they even know and tell whether or not their kid has this? Is it a power? No, it's not a power. It's just
a mistake.
It's a mistake. Only I, Xenu, can understand past life regression. Never mind. Obviously, we're going to be diving into a little discussion on what does this mean about reincarnation.
But why would they reincarnate as a human?
What would you reincarnate as? An ant?
A lobster. Live forever.
No. I thought lobsters. What, do you want to be a Stop and Shop lobster? Do you want to be sitting in that tank all day long? That's risky business. At least we have freedom in this world.
This is true. Now,
reincarnate
every
as
time
Bigfoot.
I go to a Stop and Shop, I do stop and
You do stop.
I pour one
and
out.
Shop at the lobster.
I pour one out for the homies in the lobster bin.
Yeah, I don't. Do you ever notice Whole Foods doesn't have that?
Yeah, because they just kill them in the back.
Oh no! I feel like they do really dirty things to the lobsters at Whole Foods. Like it makes you
like
seem
abuse them.
Yeah.
What?
Like it's just the joke. Like it's like a sustainably farmed. Like Whole Foods, they don't have tanks, but meanwhile in the back they're like, "Screw you!" and they're like whipping them.
I thought.
But with that being said, before we get into this video, we just wanted to ask you to please consider subscribing because God knows, or Xenu knows, we need it. But no, really, we post here every single week on the spine-chilling, conspiracy, paranormal, true crime content that you want to see. We put in all the hard work, the hours of research that it takes to understand these crazy, insane topics. I will be sending 5 shirts. Cauldron Convos exclusive. These could be worth money one day.
Yeah, the first edition, designed by Xenu himself.
You have to write me a letter.
And put your t-shirt size. We're not guessing.
We're not guessing. We don't want to be with the word canceled for guessing your size.
Yeah,
okay?
I feel like everyone loves a big shirt.
Everyone?
I love a big shirt.
Not unless you're like, I want to feel tiny. Actually, no, that would make
Like
you
a
feel
muscle
tinier.
shirt.
Yeah. Unless you're on steroids.
Rip and roll.
Then you don't want a big shirt.
Yeah.
Anyway. Your odds are in your favor. I'm probably not even gonna get 5.
We're not going to get 1.
The idea of reincarnation is the philosophical or religious concept that the non-physical essence of a living being begins a new life in a different physical form or body after biological death. So, for example, if I were to die tomorrow, I know that's very dark. I know so many people are like, oh no, please don't. It's like my Aunt Gladys, like, don't leave us. But if I were to die tomorrow, the reincarnation belief would be that I could potentially be a baby born in Switzerland. I could be a possum in a garbage can in Alabama.
Arkansas.
Are possums, do they live in Alabama? Like, do possums only live in New York? Or
No,
what's
possums are. I think possums are everywhere.
everywhere?
They're marsupials.
Like Egypt?
No,
There's like on the pyramids?
they're North America's marsupial.
Before a physical being, they were someone or something else.
Well, once you become conscious.
Yeah. So like a baby, let's just say. A little newborn. Little goo goo gaga. Stop.
Someone on those mommy milkers.
Okay, no. Wouldn't it make sense that the most accessible memories of someone that was potentially reincarnated in a past life would mean that they're young in this life?
100%.
So like now I might not remember my past life, but when I was like 2, 3, whatever, I might remember it.
Yes.
We don't have like babies that just come out of the womb being like, hello, my name is Stanley. As children start to develop verbal skills at around age 2, they might talk about a past life or even start having weird phobias or nightmares the parents can't really explain. So for example, a kid might be super scared of water for no apparent reason. Let's just say a parent didn't drown them, okay?
I think it's completely normal for a child to be scared of water.
Really?
Physiologically.
Okay, fine. Think of like a fear that's really random. Like a kid that's scared of dogs.
That's also
Dogs.
physiological.
Okay, what do humans love? Food? A kid that's scared of hamburgers? The Hamburglar killed him in a previous life. Kids, yes, physiologically are scared of water, like you said. Okay, it's natural. But like you throw a baby in water and they're supposed to just like turn on their back. That's natural.
You teach them to do that. I saw that like
No.
on 60 Minutes.
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that's like
Well,
instinctual.
then why do babies drown?
Because they're stupid babies? Because they're idiots. If you were a parent, you might bring them to a therapist or even, hypothetically, the best psychiatrist that you could bring your child to if they have extreme phobias, nightmares. To be honest, I was not expecting any scientific studies, any evidence, any psychiatrist to really be talking about past lives of children. I was shocked to see that a huge portion of these articles, blogs, studies, and videos on the topic of children remembering past lives actually reference the department specifically at the University of Virginia School of Medicine, a prestigious school, may I add, and the department is called the Department of Perceptual Studies. On their About page on their website, it notes that through its research, the Department of Perceptual Studies strives to challenge this entrenched mainstream view by rigorously evaluating empirical evidence suggesting that consciousness survives death and that mind and brain are distinct and separable. This department was founded by Dr. Ian Stevenson in 1967, and originally it wasn't the Department of Perceptual Studies, but instead the Department of Personality Studies. Dr. Ian Stevenson has now passed away, but the current director of the department is Dr. Jim Tucker, and he's like the scientific expert on this specific matter, like children that experience past life memories. We'll dive into Jim Tucker and his experience and cases that he's studied and children he's studied, but I did also want to note that this department doesn't just focus on children who recall previous memories, but they point out on their website they also study examples of such phenomena, sometimes called paranormal. This is on the University of Virginia School of Medicine Department of Perceptual Studies website. They literally quote, sometimes called paranormal, include various types of extrasensory perception such as telepathy, apparitions and deathbed visions, sometimes referred to as after-death communications, poltergeists, experiences of persons who come close to death and survive, usually called near-death experiences or NDEs, out-of-body experiences, OBEs, and claimed memories of previous lives. Our researchers are dedicated to the use of scientific methodology in their investigation of a wide range of paranormal phenomena. Anyway, I took a gander on an article on their School of Medicine's website titled Children Who Report Memories of Previous Lives. And on it notes, some young children, usually between the ages of 2 and 5, speak about memories of a previous life they claim to have lived. At the same time, they often show behaviors such as phobias or preferences that are unusual within the context of their particular family and cannot be explained by any current life events. These memories appear to be concordant with the child's statements about a previous life. In many cases of this type, the child's statements have been shown to correspond to facts in the life and death of a deceased person. Some of the children have birthmarks and birth defects that correspond to wounds or other marks on the deceased person whose life is being remembered by the child. In numerous cases, post-mortem reports have confirmed these correspondences. Older children may retain these apparent memories, but generally they seem to fade at around the age of 7. Now, the director of the department, who I briefly mentioned earlier, Jim Tucker, actually wrote 2 books on the topic and has studied over 1,000 children who have memories of a claimed past life. One of the children he studied and features in his books was James Leininger, the boy that we referenced earlier in the cold opening of this podcast. But I first wanted to go through what Jim Tucker claimed to be kind of the trend or commonalities of these children that experience these past life memories. He noted that the average age of when a child starts talking about their past life is 35 months old. So usually it's around their 3rd birthday. And 75% of them will talk about how they died in their last life. In those cases, 70% of them are through some sort of unnatural means, either murder, suicide, combat accidents. And from his experience talking to these children about their past memories, he's figured out that the kid has to actually be in a certain frame of mind to talk about it, stating, "It's usually during relaxed times, sometimes after a bath or during a car ride." Now that's a little bit creepy.
Oh, so you gotta bring your kids
You
here.
go in the bath.
You bring your kids
Your
here.
kid has to bathe before.
Here, I'll pick them up.
really
We'll have
bad.
a long car
That's really
ride.
bad.
Come back to my house. I'll give you a
Take
nice
a bath.
and then I'll drive you home.
He studied 1,000 kids. On University of Virginia's website, they actually have some example statements of things a child might say if they have a past life. So if you have a kitty out there, or if you're planning on having one, if they say these things to you, you might want to take them to our good old psychiatrist friend, unless you don't want him to bathe them.
You're not my mommy or daddy. I have another mommy or daddy.
Stepmom. Oh no, that's how you know. Either they have a past life or your husband's cheating on you, baby.
When I was big, I used to have blue eyes.
A car, etc. It's just like a when I was big statement. That happened before I was in mommy's tummy.
Ew,
Ooh, that
I
sounds
hate.
freaking kinky.
No, it doesn't. Oh, mommy's. Ew.
Yeah, what's wrong with this? This Tucker guy's a freak. I used to drive a truck, live in another town. I died in an accident, or I died and I fell.
If your child says
They'd
I
also
died,
say, I remembered when blankety
Yeah,
blank
yeah,
blank
yeah.
blank. I once told my mom I went to Saturn, so,
you did.
because I really thought I had.
Well, that explains the mask, because you knew. See, kids, you could be anything you set your mind to.
When I told my mom I went to Saturn, I was convinced I had gone. I was convinced.
Interesting. Well, I don't think I've ever done anything cool like that. Or my parents weren't listening to me to ever know. So now that we know how to spot these things in children, let's take a look at some of the cases. See, did they spot it? What's going on? Is this real? Is it a fraud? Let's get into it.
Cap or no cap?
Cap or no cap?
I learned that this week.
You just learned cap or no cap?
Cap.
Can't relate.
Or no cap.
I'm
no
with
cap.
the kids these days. Okay, so as stated earlier in the cold opening, James was just 2 years old when he made statements and demonstrated behaviors that suggested he remembered the life of an American pilot killed during World War II. Jim Tucker himself pointed out that though the case has the weakness that James's father was the one who worked to identify the previous personality, substantial documentation that is available suggests a striking similarity between James's statements and the details of the life and death of one particular pilot. Now, James' father took James to a flight museum as a child, which, what dad takes a kid that's 22 months old to a flight museum? That's kind of random.
If the father was into aviation, he would take his 2-year-old kid to the museum.
And because of James's interest in airplanes, his father actually took him again to the flight museum. Just a little alarming, 22 months old, just been to a flight museum twice. Whatever, fine, let's go with it. And James was excited again to be at the museum. However, he apparently got quiet in the hangar that housed the World War II aircraft. He stood staring and pointing at the planes in awe. Now, within 2 months of the first trip, James developed a habit of saying, "Airplane crash on fire," and slamming his toy planes nose first into the family's coffee table. He repeated this behavior over and over, producing dozens of scratches and dents on the table. Now, James's father traveled a lot, and when James and his mother would see him off at the airport, James would often say, "Daddy, airplane crash on fire." This happened repeatedly, despite his father's admonishments. Around this time, James began having nightmares. His behavior during them seems to have involved only screams at first, but then included words as well. "Airplane crash on fire, little man can't get out." A few more weeks passed by, and James named a boat that ended up actually being an escort carrier stationed in the Pacific during World War II. James eventually gave his parents the name Jack Larson as whatever. While looking at a book with his father, James pointed to an island where Mount Suribachi, a volcano, sits and said, "That's where my plane was shot down." Because of the nightmares, James' parents reached out to someone who wrote about past lives. In 2002, the family was interviewed for an ABC segment that was actually never aired. Jim Tucker does say that there is a possibility that this is a fraud. There could be some other reasonings behind it, fantasy of a kid, but he does note that reincarnation is a possibility.
Our boy, Michael.
Your boy?
My
All of a
boy,
sudden?
Michael
Okay.
Saduth, Dr. Michael Saduth, decides to come out and drop a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically analyzes the entire case. So this guy, Dr. Saduth, said the narrative is not robust. It excludes salient contextual details about James's exposure to ordinary sources of information. These sources, including videos, museum visits, and plausibly shaped James' experiences and informed his claims and behaviors. And the official chronology of events doesn't clearly track how the Langingers inadvertently introduced sources of information as part of the process to verifying James's claims. The presumed facts in the case depend on the testimony of Bruce and Andrea
True.
Langinger.
Now, this is 2021. Pretty recently, this guy, Michael Saduth, wrote a whole diss track in the form of a journal. So this, whatever he wrote, this guy, Michael Saduth, was actually called Crash and Burn. Get it?
Yeah.
Because the kid claimed to have died. James Lanninger's story debunked. So I'm not sure what, like, beef Michael and Jim Tucker have. Like, maybe they graduated in the same class and Jim Tucker was, like, you know, this prodigy. I don't know. Like, what?
Maybe.
Like, make your own study. Why do you have to
Maybe
debunk
Jim-
someone else's? Like, that's kind of extra. Did you know that after Michael Saduth wrote his little thing, his little jabby jab, our boy Jim Tucker wrote another jab back?
This kid's been to an aviation museum. I wonder why he's
Okay,
naming
yeah.
stuff after a World War II aircraft carrier.
So it should also be noted that only a small portion of parents likely bring their children to mental health professionals when they begin recounting past lives. I could totally see myself being like, once I was a star in Hollywood in the 1920s, and my mom would be like, shut up and eat your lean cuisine. That sounds like she was bad. But for the children who were interviewed by clinicians like the late Dr. Ian Stevenson and Dr. Jim Tucker, stories are remarkably similar. Kids usually remember their previous experiences when they're between the ages of 2 and 7. After that, memories begin to fade. The kids seem to become less invested in the past and more in the present. The children who recount past lives tend to have more advanced verbal skills at a younger age. I think we should mention this, that internationally, like, it's a lot more common for kids to recall past lives in places like India because they generally believe in
They accept
reincarnation.
it.
They
Yeah.
accept it.
It's
So
like
it's like,
cool.
and I did see online that one child in India was born with stubs instead of fingers on his right hand. He described a machine accident that had severed his digits in a past life. Critics of paranormal research and side-dependent conclusions argue that human psychology is responsible for children's stories of past lives. They might blame the following: false memories, cryptomnesia, the children are remembering something they'd been once told and forgotten, confabulation and fantasy, kids are concocting honest lies, like about how they got their birthmark, suggestibility, disassociation, the kids might be mentally disconnecting from reality, but multiple studies have shown no clinically relevant evidence of dissociation or psychopathology in children who remember past lives. But one study did show that these kids, reincarnated children, had higher attention-seeking scores than other children.
Uh-oh.
So I do gotta say that, alright?
Uh-oh.
Exaggerated credit, the families credit their children with more knowledge than they actually demonstrate. So, like, maybe the parent is just really like, my kid's the best kid in the world. Anyway.
I feel like that's most parents.
And if you are interested in us reading creepypasta, let me know. I mean, I don't have a very coherent voice. Is that a word? No.
Very,
Like crisp.
you don't
Crispy.
have a radio voice.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have a radio. Now do I have a
A
radio?
nice little southern twang.
No, I get my dad to read it. The wolf was on the roof.
Can he read?
No. I don't think either of my parents have. I've never seen either of my parents read a book.
They read texts.
They read text, yeah.
Your mom is a big all capser. I love it.
Discussion. What does this all mean about reincarnation? Now, do you think Xeno reincarnate into another physical being?
Nope.
You don't?
There's nothing scientifically proving it.
Why would you say that? Personally, I would not be shocked if we reincarnate.
Yeah.
The world is too weird for me to determine whether or
True.
not we do or not. I'm not
That's a good
saying
point.
no, I'm not saying
I'm
yes.
easily convinced.
If we do reincarnate, let's just say hypothetically, do you think karma would determine what or who we reincarnate into?
I think so. Bad person's a bug. Good
Mm-hmm.
person's a dolphin. What's a good animal?
Or just like rich, or like maybe you'll elevate to an author. I don't
True.
know. An author, that's like my like destiny. I want to be an author. Cue this in 20 years when I'm an author. Okay. If these are all fake, these accounts of whatever, children with past lives, what is going on with these kids? Is it the kids? Do we have the parents to blame?
It's the parents.
You think always. You don't think any of these kids are like a little cray-cray?
I think at 2 or 3 years old, you're not that cray-cray.
True. No, well...
A little wacky, but
Have you ever met my cousin Diaz?
if a
The parents that want their kids to do this, let's just say hypothetically, do they just want to get fame? Do they want money? All of the above?
probably all the above.
Like an elaborate scam. Like, I feel like you could get fame and money like a different way versus like being like, my child.
That's
like,
a low-hanging fruit. Hollywood's tough business.
But like the kids are never like the next, I don't know, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody
Well,
out here. Like they don't get
people aren't
anything good out
smart.
of it. People aren't smart. They just like failed at being, well, they're bigger than us. So
Yeah, shit. Here we are doing a podcast on them.
next question. Would you ever lie and tell the world that your child, I'm just kidding.
I would, just to punk, just to see if Tucker will give me a
We
bath.
should write, oh, that's a good video. We email Jim Tuck.
Oh.
Call me.
Email him.
Leave the mail alone.
You
He's
gotta
a good guy.
you gotta respect a man of the scientific method.
Just cause a guy likes to, I don't know, take a kid for a drive, give him a little pat. Get him to relax a bit. Thank you guys all for the nice comments. Those who commented nice things on our last video. Southern Racing 24 wrote something really nice. Raymond Jack wrote something really nice. Some guy named N wrote, "Piping your snake is my first submission to Cauldron Corrections. It had me laughing like a hyena." So apparently, it's funny that I don't know how to snake a pipe or pipe a snake. I still don't know what it is. Snaking a pipe. Never call me if you need to get your plumbing done. Craig also wrote, "Very interesting topic. Can't wait to hear this. Have a wonderful night, friends." Have a wonderful night to you too, Craig. Craig also said they better not come looking to pipe my snake. So, these jokes about piping a snake, they're not funny, alright? I'm just kidding. That was very fun. Nicholas Robinson 003 wrote, "I know the topic is men in black, but I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to hear a woman say the word men like 10 times in a paragraph and not have it be a string of insults." Maybe times are truly changing. Men, 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 manly men. Copyrighted. Anyway, someone wrote, "Awesome man. Tedson." I love that name. What a name. Classic. Tedson. Can I name my kid after you? Luca Grigoli, who's commented a few times on our videos, wrote, "I think secret policy criminals and psychological archetype." True that, Luca. Someone, Matthew Herrera wrote, "I'm here for the smoke machine," which honestly, thank you so much. I'm so sorry we couldn't deliver the smoke machine yet, but we'll be back soon, okay? Instead, you get this weird golden globe and some dark green paint. Those are all the Cauldron comments, corrections, whatever you want to say for this week's episode. But if you want to be featured in the next week's podcast, you want me to react to you, whatever, email me at cauldronconvos@gmail.com or comment on this video. But email is preferred because it's more intimate. I will be sending 5 shirts. Cauldron Convos exclusive. You have to write me a letter. It could literally be like a story. It could be like, "Oh my god, thank you so much for letting me enter this thing."
A condolences card. Those are funny.
Oh, it could be a Valentine. No one wants to send me one.
Who wants to be Xenu's Valentine?
It's just like someone's foot pic. If you send a, what's it
A
called?
Polaroid.
Polaroid.
If you send a Polaroid foot pic, we'll send you a sweatshirt.
Whoa. Hoodies?
On me.
Expensive these days. Plus the shipping of those things. Those
On
are
me.
Heavy.
On me.
$8? Easy.
We'll read the letter live on air.
Yes, if you want. Now, I hope you guys liked this video on the potential reincarnation, children who remember past lives. If you have anything relevant to say it down below. If you have literally nothing else to say besides your body odor is acting up this month, go for it. I want to know if you're stinking it up over there.
Stink it up.
Maybe that says something about your past life. If you guys liked it, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we post here every single week and we post daily shorts too on the paranormal, conspiracy, spy, and chilling true crime topics that you definitely want to hear.
And